Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And a pleasant good afternoon to you and yours, and welcome to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Wednesday, the 2nd day of May, 2018, along with Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes. I'm Will Pelagic. Hope you're enjoying yourself as we sit here in South Carolina on a big, big day for Will Muschamp and his football program. They have solidified their 2018 recruiting class with their final commitment. We have new Baseball America NCAA tournament projections as well. We'll hear from Tiger Woods at the Wells Fargo Championship in Charlotte, hoping to try and also get some Dabo Swinney in as well. Rusty Wallace is on the program today as well. It is an SC Wild afternoon also. We'll hear from Captain Billy Downer in our second hour of our program. A very, very lot to get to. If we have time for phone calls, we will try to squeeze those in amongst all the other fray. 800-956-7266. Though I can tell you it will be a hectic 90 for us, and it starts with the Gamecocks' corn, and they get not only a big addition to their secondary, but they pluck him away from a yearly opponent.
Indeed, as Nick Harvey announced today on Twitter that he is going to enroll at South Carolina for his grad transfer year out of Texas A&M. We'll go into more details about him as a player and his accomplishments at Texas A&M. But the thing that really stands out to me here is this is the kind of recruiting battle you got to upgrade your team. Even though you're only going to have him for 1 year, South Carolina's in still need of help in the secondary, and they've gone to the grad transfer market twice now, successful both times. JT eBay as a safety, and now Nick Harvey as a corner. This was a very highly recruited, heralded player coming out of high school in Texas, Richmond, Texas, went to Texas A&M, had a good career there, and had some injury issues as well, but apparently, by all counts, is a good player. And South Carolina beat out the likes of Florida and Arizona and Auburn and Oklahoma State for him. So that speaks well for what Will Muschamp and his staff, they are able to do, along with what they have developed there in terms of the new culture, the new facilities, things moving in a positive direction to beat out those other schools. For a player like that, very good sign for South Carolina.
They go into football-rich Texas for the second time, as you mentioned, in this recruiting class, especially with the grad transfer market. But in my opinion, Corn, the biggest thing about this is it fills a genuine need. Now, we've heard talk from Will Muschamp about the fact that, you know, they really have some question marks in the secondary, not just up the middle, but some guys who they can basically plug and play at both safety and corner. This allows you to take a guy who was a starter in the SEC before he got hurt and didn't play all last year. He was a starter in the SEC. This is somebody who you can put on the opposite side of Fenton and have him live there. That way you maybe can use Keyshawn Nixon at safety and use Jemias Williams at safety and or nickel, and don't have to put those guys on the outside.
That's the underlying issue here, is when you hear Muschamp talk, he really wanted Nixon at nickel. But he did not want to have one of those freshmen put them in there into the fray too quickly, because you can ruin a guy early,
True.
especially if they're not strong enough. So you get a veteran in there at corner. You say, now I can put Nixon where I want him, because what does they say? When you move a guy from his best position, you weaken two positions because you put him at corner, which he's good at corner, but his best position is nickel. So now you get one of your great players that you know can play a position of need, and you can plug in a veteran player at the other position.
In my opinion, Corn, I mean, I know that Nixon's good at corner, but in my opinion, you needed, I don't want to say a Band-Aid on that position, but this was probably, if there was any position that was leaking holes in Will Muschamp's defense, other than maybe defensive tackle, this was the one.
Well, this gives him some flexibility, as Pro was alluding to. Now, you look at their secondary depth chart, and you look at the corners. So now you've got Rashad Fenton, Corey Banks, you've got Israel Mukwamu, Jamias Williams. A healthy Tavin Jackson would help, and then you got Nick Harvey to plug in there as well. You look at the safeties, and you've got Stephen Montag and R.J. Roderick. You've got Javon Charleston, J.T. eBay. A healthy Jalen Dickerson would certainly help, and Zay Brown. The safeties very much, shall we say, green, not identifiable. These
J.C.
aren't
Horn
really
also on that list, too, as a guy who's coming in the fall.
Well, yeah, I'm not including any of the true freshmen here who did not enroll early, because, you know, those guys have got to catch up, as does Nick Harvey. But at least Nick Harvey's got 3 years of SEC experience under his belt. And then your nickel position, and you got Keyshawn Nixon, you got Jamias Williams, Kenneth Coleman, perhaps Jalen Dickerson, a lot of different guys flip-flopping in and out between nickel and corner and safety as they try to find the right personnel. I would think that, I mean, Montag's got experience. eBay comes in with experience, some Rice. Dickerson, they love if they can just keep him healthy. The problem for him has just been not being able to get on the field because of injuries. But the safeties in particular are going to be tested early, because they are an inexperienced group as they stand now.
I mean, up the middle, I think if you looked at, you know, middle linebacker, you looked at defensive tackle, you looked at safeties, that's where South Carolina's weaknesses are. And by shoring up the outside, this can help you more answer the question at safety. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. We'll get to one of the phone calls here in our second segment. We want to at least kind of set the table a little more on that. The NCAA tournament projections from Baseball America. Yesterday we heard from D1 Baseball. Today we heard from Baseball America, and some favorable things for not just Clemson, but also Coastal Carolina is back in the hosting fray, if you will, and it has also South Carolina in the field as well projected, Corn.
Yeah, all depends on who you believe more, Baseball America or D1 when it comes to their projections. But yeah, they've got Clemson as a host, a number 8 seed, as the number 8 seed, with Tennessee Tech, Baylor, and Yale. Then they've got Coastal Carolina, the number 14 seed, hosting with UConn, Missouri, and Greensboro. And they've got the Gamecocks in the field as well, playing in Raleigh against, well, they would open up as a number 3 seed and would play East Carolina with NC State, the 1, and Campbell rounding out that regional. All that sounds doable to me. The teams continue to win. I think, you know, that scenario certainly is a possible one.
Well, I'm curious to see, you know, what this series against Ole Miss is going to mean this weekend for them, because if they can take 2 of 3 from Ole Miss and you're already on the 3 line now, they could put you in a much more favorable position come next week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got a chance to get to a 2 seed if they finish strongly in their last 9 SEC games. Can I say this real quick before we hit the break? I am change subjects.
Yes.
I'm so happy to know that our legislators have solved all our problems in our state before going home, thank goodness, for vacation, that they can debate building a statue on the State House grounds to Asia Wilson.
Now, remember,
I'm just glad all our problems are over with.
Now, remember, this is it's quite interesting that South Carolina has one of the longest legislative sessions of any of the 50 states.
I think this is indication that it's too long.
But no, this is the indication that somebody wanted something passed and they're blocking them.
Yes.
So we're going to debate something else.
Yeah, it seems like it's
There's got to be a backstory to this, right?
Oh, sure it is.
I mean, they wouldn't seriously consider putting a statue to a sports figure on the State House grounds,
That's
would
what
they?
I want to make make purely clear that that's why your disdain is therefore because it's a sports figure and not just because it's this particular sports
No.
figure.
I mean, it was, come on, this is ridiculous. I mean, seriously, our legislatures don't have anything better to do to waste the ink and paper for something like this.
Yes.
Whether it's her or Deshaun Watson or anybody else that's won a national championship and won a National Player of the Year award and all this other stuff.
We've gotten people on our Twitter responding to the story. Jackie Hunter says it's a bit much. She has a Gamecock thing in her Gamecock avatar in her thing, so it's not just coming from a Clemson fan. One Clemson fan talked to us and said, this is trash. Another one said, give me a break. Again, like you said, I think there's more below the surface on that as to why what Pro kind of said.
I don't know the political games they play over there. Pro certainly knows more than I do, having covered it. But
every game in the book.
Don't waste our time, please.
We got a couple of calls to get to, which we will do on the other side of the break. We want to hear from you as well. 800-956-7266. More on the Nick Harvey commitment. Also, the top 25s are out for most of the collegiate football pundits. We'll get to those. And some interesting comments as well.
Pave my roads before you build a sports statue. All right, how about debate that?
No potholes.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
6:20 on Sports Talk. Hope you're enjoying yourself on this beautiful, beautiful day. I mean, we skipped spring. Did spring happen?
Not really.
I don't think spring happened.
This is spring.
It's the way things go around here.
It's like 90 today.
It's going to peak and then it's going to cool off a little bit.
Yeah.
The real heat's still to come because we don't have any humidity right now. That's when you'll really feel it. This isn't all that bad because there are no clouds. There's no humidity. There's a high pressure system, a Bermuda high. Well, that's what it's called. It's called a Bermuda high. I know. I took weather in college.
Okay.
Meteorology.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a Bermuda high located off the coast of South Carolina, providing us with this beautiful weather.
Meteorologist Phil Kornbluth with your weather on the 8s here on Sports Talk.
In Columbia, there's spring, there's summer, and then there's Hades. Those are the three seasons.
And Hades is coming.
Traffic and weather together on the 8s.
Yeah.
By the way, ignore a malfunction junction, by the way.
If you can.
800-956-7266. Let's go to James, who is calling us from Sumter to lead us off on this Wednesday. Hello, James.
Hey, guys. Okay, hey, I want you guys to comment on two things. One, all these polls are coming out, and I don't see Miami Hurricanes as a top 10 team. Clemson has beaten them too easily the past few times they played them. They waxed them like 35 last year. I don't see how anybody can have them in that top 10. I think that should be flipped. I think Willie Taggart and Florida State are a much more competitive team. They're going to give Clemson a much better battle this year than Miami. And speaking of Clemson, now I know this show does not need any ratings boost or anything. I'm not one of these people that call in and make up stuff. I was in Phoenix 2 weeks ago. Met an Alabama booster at a charity auction, a cancer charity auction. This guy was out there auctioning on Ferraris, okay? Mm-hmm. He told me straight out of his own mouth that in a couple of years, and he put it like this, Alabama's going to make Dabo Swinney an offer he can't refuse. Listen, he said that Dabo Swinney in a couple of years will be the richest coach in college football, and he told me they're not going to wait and make the mistakes that wait around like FSU did for Bowden, and they made the mistakes of letting Bear Bryant stay there too long. Any slippage you see in Nick Saban's program, Alabama's going to push him out, and they're going to go for the younger coach. And this guy told me they are all over Dabo in Alabama, and he's going to get Jimbo Saban money. So what do you guys – I mean, Jimbo Fisher type money. So what do you guys think about that? And I'll just hang up and listen. Love your show.
Talk, and we've said it here for a long time. It's going to continue until Saban retires. It's going to be always in the conversation now because Dabo Swinney is the hottest coach in the country outside of Nick Saban, and with the connection, it's pretty obvious that people are going to point towards Dabo, and nobody can think and sit and say Dabo's going to do this. I mean, Alabama may indeed make a hard run at him. There's no guarantee one way or the other. My inclination is he would stay at Clemson because he's built at Clemson practically everything that you've got at Alabama without the absolute out of this world craziness of the fan base.
Well, just to kind of piggyback on what James is saying, there was something that was asked of Lars Anderson, longtime reporter of collegiate football and connected in Birmingham. He's a contributing writer for a bunch of different publications. Somebody legitimately asked him earlier today on Twitter. He said, who do you see Saban's placement being? And he asked about Lane Kiffin, and he said, this is his quote, Dabo Swinney, bank it, lock it down, bet the farm in Vegas, bet your firstborn, it will happen.
Yeah. How many times have we bet the farm on other coaches being at this school and they never went there?
Well, I mean, if you try to apply logic to it, of course, logic doesn't always carry the day. But if I'm Dabo, I don't care how much I might love Alabama. You've been removed from there long enough. Clemson gave you your opportunity, made you a very wealthy man. You delivered in return by building a great football program that shows no signs of letting up. You can achieve everything that you want to achieve at Clemson. And if you
quite honestly, you can do it easier at Clemson because of the conference you play in.
Absolutely. The SEC's not going away either. And one slip up is all it takes at Alabama. and the tide will turn. No pun intended.
Honeymoon can go vanish
Mhm.
about as quickly as anywhere.
Yeah.
800-956-7266. Let's go to Glenn, who's calling from North Charleston. Glenn, good evening.
Hey, Corn and company.
Howdy.
I just say it's high time we had a Frank Martin. You know, it ain't fair. You know, Adrian Wilson gets a statue, but Frank Martin can't even get a street named after him for getting us into the Final Four. I mean, come on. How long has it been since
they gave him a boost in his contract?
You got to win a championship to get a street. I mean, I know
What
the
about
Final Four.
what about a statue?
Final Four is great, but I mean, that's not the championship.
Yeah, but how long has it been since South Carolina's been to the Final Four?
They've never been.
Never been. That was the first time.
Okay, all right. They should be a street. There's plenty of streets. They could take my street right here.
Well, you can't do it. You can't do it with Colonial Life because that's Dawn Staley way. Because guess what she did?
Here's the deal.
She brought home a championship.
Here's the deal about statues and streets. I'm like the guy that talks to the player who goes into the end zone. Son, act like you've been there before.
Well, listen, you start naming things about after people who are still living and working and active and doing things, and all of a sudden you can look back and have to change some things. Look at all the people, including the University of South Carolina right now, that are rethinking those Bill Cosby honorary degrees that they gave him, and now they're talking, got to rescind it, rescind it. So, I mean, you want to get in that kind of situation. Not saying that any of these people are going to do anything wrong.
Right. I will bring up this story before we get to our next caller. Apparently, according to Georgia Athletic Director Greg McGarity, he sees Clemson and Georgia possibly meeting on the gridiron as soon as the year 2021 and possibly in 2024 as well. They have common openings in that schedule. And with that, I bring Bulldog Bert and Saluda on. How do you feel about playing the Tigers?
He don't want no Clemson.
You want a piece of Dabo?
He don't want no Clemson.
I was just going to say, if Alabama's going to go after anybody, they're going to go after Kirby Smart after he shuts the door on them in the SEC championship.
I'd rather have Dabo. I'd rather have Dabo than Kirby Smart.
Because we're going to win the SEC championship, going to win that championship this year.
Is that
bring Clemson on. Yes, sir. I'm ready to play them right now.
How'd that halftime lead hold up for you? Did you know that there are 4 quarters to a football game?
Hey, if
there
Tua,
is a second half.
If Tua can do that to Alabama, I can't imagine what Trevor Lawrence is going to do. Although
we're going to be ready for him this year. We're going to be ready.
If Trevor plays this year, he might not be there in 2021.
I mean, he's got to play. We know they're going to take another quarterback off the bench that hadn't even played a half and put him on the field with free legs.
I mean, you got Sabanized, man. He put in a rookie quarterback who hadn't played at all and just diced and sliced right through
Greener
you guys.
than romaine lettuce, man. Come on.
All that defense is gone. You got no defense. I'm not even sure you're going to win the East. You got to come to this place called Williams-Brice, all right? And it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. Gamecock fans are going to be loud.
What was that Nick Chubb said about Sandstorm? He said he can't stand that sandstorm, can he?
You ain't heard Sandstorm. Do you hear it this coming September?
I can't wait. Bring it on.
Bring it on. So, do you have a score for the Week 2 game? What would be your score right now if we were asking you on May the 2nd?
I have to see a little bit more of the first game.
Oh, is that
who y'all open with?
You have to see how South Carolina beats up on was it Coastal?
Yeah. Who y'all got to open up with, Bulldog?
I think it's
Georgia State, School for the Deaf, Dumb, and Blind.
Yeah.
It ain't Georgia State. Who y'all playing? Look it up. Don't even know his own schedule. I thought you were a dyed-in-the-wool Bulldog fan. I'm a little surprised.
They play an almighty juggernaut, Corn.
Who's that?
They play Austin Peay.
Oh, let's go, P.
There you go.
Let's go.
At least South Carolina is starting with an in-state school that actually plays in a semi-respectable conference.
Well, it's a Division I opponent.
Yeah.
That's Coastal Carolina.
I'm
not selling them short.
That's what I'm saying. They play an opponent that actually gives them a chance. They play Austin Peay. Come on, man.
The governor.
They got $1 million coach.
I just heard back from Nick Harvey. He's going to join us at 7:20
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have the newest Gamecock for you coming up in the next hour.
We'll do that. We'll continue talking Gamecocks and Clemson next. Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Yeah, Georgia plays Austin Peay to start. Like that's lame.
I was at the governor's mansion today, along with some other people. It wasn't just me.
Yeah,
it was Darlington Day at the governor's mansion. What a beautiful area that is. Governor McMaster, his wife, Rusty Wallace was there. We may hear from Rusty tonight. If we don't have time, we'll have it tomorrow night. But I just want to point out that the governor's dog was there, and I was a little bit disappointed to see that he is it's a bulldog.
Yeah, it's a new bulldog.
It's what's it called? A pug nose? Yeah, pure pug nose, UGA looking Bulldog.
That doesn't seem like it's consistent with South Carolina's state values.
But it's consistent with his family values because that's his old bulldog died.
Oh,
so he
wow.
got
is
another
that right?
bulldog.
Good looking dog as dogs go. He's a cute little thing.
Because remember he had on his commercial when he was running for governor. Boots. Old Boots.
Oh, that's right. By the way, speaking of commercials,
Boots kicked the boot.
For those of you who are interested, NASCAR fans, Rusty Wallace fans, he was at Darlington a few weeks ago, and they cut a bunch of commercials for his automobile dealerships. He has 7, I guess, mostly in the Tennessee area. But anyway, they were at Darlington to cut new commercials, and you can watch them on YouTube, on his YouTube, Rusty Wallace Auto something. So for those of you who are interested,
we asked Bulldog Bert about the particulars involving that Clemson Georgia series. How would you feel? Again, the only openings they have for an opponent of that nature would be 2021 and 2024 on Clemson's schedule. Georgia doesn't have anything from 21 through 24. How do you feel about a potential home and home with those two?
I think it's great. Play it, man.
It should happen every year.
Clemson, Auburn was great. Anytime you can get SEC, ACC powers together in those kind of meetings, look. You stand to gain a lot of ground nationally if you win. You stand to get dinged a little bit if you lose, but it's not a conference game. You still have the rest of the season to make up for any kind of a loss. So you shouldn't be scared from an RPI or a playoff standpoint, because you still have time to recover if you're good enough to go on down the road and make up for that loss. And I say yes.
And of course they're less than 90 miles apart.
75.
And they battle tooth and nail off the field in recruiting wars, so they might as well play it on the field.
We'll hear from Dabo Swinney, kind of keeping with that Clemson theme in just a moment. He just spoke actually up in Greenville for the Prowl and Growl event up there. 800-956-7266. Wes is calling from Florence. Good evening, Wes. What's up in the PD?
Nothing much. Corn, 9-0 Hartsville girls over Kane Bay in the top of the 4th. I just got finished shooting the highlights of that game.
Domination.
Yeah, well, they always do. They got the girl pitching for USC now. I mean, she was committed since she was in 8th grade here in Hartsville, and I think she's doing pretty well there. I'm not a Gamecock fan, so I don't know. Do you think our Celtics will go all the way, and who do you see them play in the finals?
Well, first of all, things are shaping up despite the injuries. And I mean, gosh, I just wish the Celtics could be healthy. Imagine what the Celtics could be doing if they were healthy. And now, of course, Jaylen Brown looks like he's going to miss game 2 with that hamstring. So they got to just preserve home court. That's why you go all season for the opportunity to have home court. Then Cleveland winning last night against Toronto. If Cleveland wins and the Celtics win, the Celtics will have home court for that series. Of course, I have to admit, I'm very worried if we get that far. I'm very worried about playing LeBron, because it's like playing Jordan. He gets every call. He gets every break. You can't get a charge against him. You can't get a foul called against him. And he's great. And he makes almost every shot.
That sounds like what used to happen to Bird.
No, Bird never got calls
like that. Are you kidding me?
Come on. Boston? Ain't no way.
In Boston?
Never got calls.
Oh, please.
So, I think, and I'm impressed with Philly now. They got some great young players, but I think the Celtics play better as a team. I think they're in that groove right now as a team, especially at home. I think we'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you pick your poison there. I'd like to see Cleveland, I guess, because I'd prefer to have the home court. With the home court, I think we got a chance to get to the finals.
Here's the problem with Cleveland. Cleveland is a more focused team on the road than they are at home. That's the danger in playing Cleveland.
Drastic transition here, gentlemen. Staying in the Palmetto State. The head coach of the Clemson Tigers just got done speaking to media again at the Prowl and Growl event in Greenville. Dabo Swinney.
What's cooler, Prowl and Growl or Spurs Up Tour? What's the cooler name?
I think Prowl and Growl is nice.
You like Prowl and Growl?
I think Spurs Up is overdone, in my opinion.
See, I think it's not used enough at South Carolina.
I think it's used way too much.
Do you really?
I think it's way too.
I mean,
too
that's
much.
like War Eagle. I mean, South Carolina fans should pass each other on the street and go, "Hey, man, Spurs Up."
I don't like.
Hey, man, Spurs Up.
Here's what he had to say about his Hall of Fame induction in Alabama this past weekend.
It was great. It was an amazing. I really didn't know what to expect going up there, but it was a really kind of overwhelming, amazing experience. Because it's as Will can tell you, it's an unbelievable facility. First of all, 3 floors, and it's not just a football. I mean, you're talking about Joe Louis and Jesse Owens and Carl Lewis and Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. I mean, just people all walks of life. Coach Bryant, Coach Stallings, 6 Clemson head coaches. It's pretty amazing when you walk through and you see all the people. And so it was just it just became real to me. It was just something, they called me back in the fall, and it just really kind of compartmentalized that away. And now all of a sudden it's there, and it was very surreal. And it was special, so many of my family and friends to be able to, have a moment like that. And so many of my former players who came up there was really cool, and our staff and our board. I mean, it was a great event, and, special. I mean, no doubt about it. It was a fun weekend.
Coach, can you share with us, after being able to look at film from the orange and white game, just some of your thoughts about what stood out to you the most?
Well, it was a very competitive game for sure. The depth of our team, I thought, showed up in that game. A couple plays here or there, I mean, could have really made a big difference. And even though, the game was the white team, I think, came back, and then the pick by Trayvon kind of sealed the deal because it was fixing to get real interesting. So just some big plays. Saw some guys make some plays and finish some plays. The guys in the trenches, I thought did a really nice job, especially some of those guys that we wanted to really see how they responded in a different role, like a Bach course, for example, for the first time, getting a Blake Vincent, getting a first start. A lot of those guys getting a chance to start. So it was good, very competitive, and just another scrimmage. We had 5 scrimmages, so-called gradable scrimmages, counting our half scrimmages, and so just a real big part of the evaluation process.
We talked to the guys that got drafted this past weekend. Were you surprised by any of those where guys ended up?
Not really surprised. I just saw Dorian, and Dorian just came by right before I left, and I was running a few minutes late. He came by to give me a hug, and just he was so excited to kind of tell me his story, and evidently he said he was at a party and they didn't think he was going to get drafted or whatever, and they called him, and he was with Kendall Fuller and their high school bud. I mean, so it was a pretty neat story he was telling me, and so he's fired up. I think he said he leaves tomorrow. A couple of guys that didn't get drafted, I think they hoped they would, but I don't think anybody was surprised. It was you could or couldn't. But good to see those guys land and get some opportunities, and I don't have any doubt they'll take full advantage of it.
He expounded a little bit on the slide of Deion Kane as well. That's one I still think that perplexes me, Corn. Why Deion didn't go as high as I think we thought he would.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good career at Clemson, and I can never figure out some of the decisions made by general managers in the NFL. I mean, that's a surprise. Sky Moore not being picked, in my eyes, was a big surprise. But you don't know what they're looking at, what metrics they're weighing when they look at a particular situation. Might just come down to need, and I can't explain it. But you know what? He got picked, and he'll get his chance to prove everybody wrong, and the old chip on the shoulder, and go out there and say, "Hey, man, you should have taken me."
They may have looked at that film and say, Kane is a good receiver, but he's an unwilling blocker.
Well, he did have some dropsies too now, especially in the bowl game. He had some issues catching the football.
The latest on the newest Gamecocks commitment with recruiting, and he'll also join us later on in the program at 7:20.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
I wanted to get to this just really teeny story before we get to recruiting. And Ira Schaffel will join us at the top of the hour to talk about Florida State's spring review as we continue some of that. So Tennessee's chancellor got fired today by the University of Tennessee president. And I won't read the whole letter, but it is probably the most scathing language I've ever seen in a professional letter in my entire life. The president, Joe DiPietro, said, "I've decided and it's in the best interest of the University of Tennessee to change the leadership of our flagship campus and terminate your appointment as chancellor. The relationship between us, as well as that between you and members of your cabinet, continues to be unsatisfactory. You would have benefited from a professional coach, and your unwillingness to routinely engage one has been frustrating. You have not acclimated yourself to the UT system and appear unwilling to understand or acknowledge the value of the UT system. Your one-on-one, small group, and business transactional communication skills are very poor. Regularly, you have problems with lack of organization, attention to detail, timely follow-up. You failed to accept responsibility in cases where subordinates make mistakes, and you failed to communicate to the campus a defined strategic vision of where you want to take the institution and a plan for its implementation." All of that is just a snippet of some of the fiery, dunk-worthy type comments from Joe DiPietro on now fired UT Chancellor Beverly Davenport, who, by the way, hired John Curry, who, by the way, mixed up that whole Greg Schiano hiring / not hiring / fiasco that led to Philip Fulmer being made the AD and Jeremy Pruitt being named the head coach. Jimmy Himes has got a hotbed of just hilarity.
As the stomach turns in Knoxville.
It's terrible.
No end to it.
No end. Recruiting here coming up. First off, I'd like to tell you that Sports Talk is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Visit foundersfcu.com and see how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. Foundersfcu.com.
How did they get that letter?
I think it was presented to the media. The media got a copy of the letter, and again, it's incredibly scathing stuff.
But the reason I said it is because if he's talking about leadership, that shows a lack of leadership. What did they always tell you? You chastise in private, you praise in public. So if he let all this out, then there's a slippage in his leadership.
Now, she's still going to get a 4-year salary of 75% of her chancellor's salary, and she will be a tenured professor, and she'll be able to stay on staff. But I
don't cry for her.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to stay there, because this guy literally has just trashed the bejesus out of you.
I mean, Tennessee just can't get out of its own way right now. The only thing that has saved Tennessee athletically in the last few years, Rick Barnes and that basketball team. In terms of the big sports, everything else has been in the toilet.
She'll be on administrative leave until June 30th, and then
couldn't happen to a finer group.
Become the chancellor.
And of course, coach that ran off before that. Conzo Martin got them in the Sweet 16.
Tell her to put
ran him off.
Make sure she puts her teeth in before she leaves town.
Easy. She's not that old. She's not that old. She's a young lady.
She's in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's true. Recruiting and the latest on a Gamecocks commitment, the 25th of this class, Corn.
Yes. And we'll have him, if all goes well now, you never know how these things work out. He's scheduled to be with us at 7:20. Nick Harvey announced today on his Twitter that he is coming to South Carolina. He took officials to USC, Tennessee, Arizona, and Auburn. He also considered Florida and Oklahoma State, native of Richmond, Texas, heavily recruited in 2014. He played in every game in his first 2 seasons, though he nearly transferred to Oklahoma after his freshman season. Became a starter in his junior year of 2016, 66 tackles, 10 passes defended. A knee injury last spring and subsequent surgery forced him to miss all of the 2017 season. He used that as a redshirt year, leaving him 1 season of eligibility. For his career with the Aggies, he had 109 tackles, 14 defended passes, 1 pick, and 1 fumble recovery. He's actually played 2 games at Williams-Brice Stadium, so it will not be foreign turf to him. This sounds like a very good pickup for South Carolina, at least on paper. Speaking of DBs, USC offered defensive back DJ Daniel from Georgia Military, where South Carolina's done a lot of recruiting over the years, and now South Carolina leads for him. He first talked with Will Muschamp when Muschamp came to a GMC to recruit Devontae Davis, who is now a USC commitment. Then Monday, Travaris Robinson was at the school, told him of the offer, and then Tuesday he talked again with Muschamp and further confirmed the offer. So he feels very good about that, and he's very interested in playing for defensive coaches like Muschamp and T-Rob. USC's his best offer by far. East Carolina, South Alabama, Georgia State, and Louisiana Lafayette are the other offers, and he said he would rank South Carolina number 1. It's always been his dream to play in the SEC. He's out of Griffin, Georgia. He graduates in December. Will have 3 years to play 2. Last year he had 26 tackles, 3 picks, 5 pass breakups, and he blocked 3 kicks. Another linebacker Clemson is heavily in on, Jackson Hanna, 6'3", 220. He's out of Nashville. He was at Clemson for the spring game. He's been in touch with Brent Venables and Lamatsky Hall. Very impressed with what he saw at Clemson on his visit for the spring game, and the Tigers are staying on him pretty hard, and said that his favorite linebacker, the guy that he really followed in college, was Ben Boulware. Couldn't remember his name, just knew him as number 10. But he said he loved the way that Boulware played the game when he was at Clemson. He has been to Arkansas. He's working on setting up an official visit there. He's also been to Cal. They're recruiting him hard. He's working on a top 5, and he said Clemson would be in that group. Some other offers are USC, Oregon, Ole Miss, LSU, Florida, Louisville, Alabama, Wisconsin, Duke, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. Clemson now showing interest in defensive back Cam Smith of Westwood. His offers include Appalachian, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Colorado State, East Carolina, Toledo, Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. USC offered 2021 defensive end Jonathan Jefferson of Douglasville, Georgia. In basketball, made contact with 6'10" Oral Roberts grad transfer Javon White today. He took an official to Clemson last week. He tells us he plans to make a decision on his next school this week. He played 2 seasons at ORU, redshirted a 3rd, leaving him 2 years to play at his new home. He said the visit to Clemson overall went well. He met with the staff, most of the players, viewed the facilities, met with the strength and conditioning coach, met with academic staff. So he's also been to UMass, Nevada, and LSU. I like Clemson's chances, considering that he got back in touch with me, knowing that we cover Clemson. That's an indication that there's interest there, strong interest. He averaged 10 points, 9 rebounds per game last season. Clemson offered 2019 point guard 6'3" Kira Lewis of Hazel Green, Alabama. And in baseball, from John Whittle of the Big Spur, USC picked up a commitment for the 2018 class, left-handed pitcher and outfielder Julian Bosnick of Tampa. He originally was committed to Wake Forest, backed off that, reconsidered USC, Florida, Georgia, Louisville, North Carolina, and Wake, 6'3", 210. And he's going to be a Gamecock. There you go with recruiting.
I'm wondering how big that an NCAA tournament appearance would be, just to kind of restore the stature a little bit for South Carolina. How big that would mean for Mark Kingston in recruiting?
Huge. I mean, anytime you make the tournament, that's huge. Helps, of course, to win and get to a super regional. But their recruiting seems to be going fine based on what I've read. I mean, they've got a big class, and this guy that John wrote about appears to be a very, very good prospect. And they're going to need, I mean, they can tell recruits man, you got a chance to play next year because we're losing. Think about it. They're losing first base. They're losing, probably going to lose shortstop, going to lose third base, probably going to lose center field. Corner outfielders are back, right?
Yes,
I think
Cortez.
they're both sophomores.
Yeah.
Olsen is sophomores. Olsen and Cortez are both sophomores.
Yes.
And they lose Taylor behind the plate. What's Cullen? Is Cullen a junior or senior?
I think he's draft eligible. I think he is.
Yeah.
And you also tell recruits that we're working on getting our pitching machines taken on the road.
We can ship those on the road now.
They need that.
We will continue our trip around spring football. We'll recap what happened at Florida State with Ira Schoffel, who comes your way next on Sports Talk.